Hmm. Hello everyone, welcome to Town Hall meeting number 4. It is currently block height 318,262. We've got a great Merkle this week, 9A, B, D, D. That's a fantastic Merkle route. Welcome everyone. So yeah, it's a kind of a European special today, as we wanted to include some of our friends from the EU that haven't had a chance to join us during our normal time slot, which is on Thursday evenings because it's so late. So I'd like to welcome Anna. Hello, Anna.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
And also joining us from last week from Thailand, but originally from Scotland, I'd like to welcome Ajan.
Greetings from Thailand, everybody.
And representing the USSA is Jamie from Wisconsin.
Howdy, everybody.
And later on as well, during this meeting, we're expecting Ksenya, who has also joined me on Chris Before Coffee as well in the past, who comes from Sweden. And hopefully we've got some things. If you check down the description below, you'll see the agenda for today. Again, it's another kind of informal meeting because we've still got things that we're waiting for that we said we were going to do a while ago, like the promo videos and the new WCN website, but these things just take time. Originally, it was Derek's idea that we do these meetings every week just to kind of keep the energy levels up. I totally agree. I think it's good because it keeps everybody on the ball and going. So yeah, so check down below. Not only are they written in the descriptions in plain text, but I've also got a Google Doc down there that you can click on, and that's a bit nicer formatted and things, so you can read it a bit easier. So let's just skip through the topics. We've got the multi-sig wallets. We need to create more because we still haven't tested out the Armory. I have helped a few people set up their Armory wallets, so more people are coming online with that. Also, I wanted to talk about Podio. I'm getting into the habit of using it. It looks like a few of us have really got into it, but then I've also noticed that a lot of people aren't using it, and they're out of the loop, and they're emailing me saying, well, what's going on? And I'm saying, well, it's over here. So we just need to get on top of that. We also have Decentralized the World. The other day I met one of our audience members, Mitch from Ghana. He is a Canadian native, but he's living in Ghana with his wife. And he took a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. I gave him a copy on the memory stick. I installed it for him. So he's going to take that back to Ghana and he's going to work with us, maybe do some videos for us and help the locals there get adopted into Bitcoin. So I wanted to talk about that. Also, I wanted to get people on top of fundraising. So I wanted to talk about Patreon, and I wanted to talk about the lower thirds that Jamie has been suggesting and seems to have been successful so far. And yeah, the ads for the shows, and then we've got a suggestion from Jamie, which is talking about the access to the Twitter account, which is a good idea. And then also Anna's got a suggestion where we have like pre-recorded clips for shows that people can then talk about. So which one do we want to start with? Should we start with the multi-sigs?
Yeah, let's just go down the list like you had said.
Cool, cool. Okay, so the Armory wallets, we've got a 6 of 7, but what we've already noticed is that that's really difficult for everyone to agree what to do. I would say that the ideas that we came up with last time was doing a fundraiser for a Ferguson journalist, and there was, donating some money to ALS following Hal Finney's recent passing. And the other one from Ajan was that we just front load another wallet. Now, I think because of brevity, it's probably a good idea just to front load another wallet because it would probably take time to do fundraisers for things. So does anybody like on air right now want to set up a multi-sig wallet? Or should we just do like a 2 of 2, or should we do like a 2 of 3?
Maybe as long as there are not too many, just choose the 2 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to join me with a 2 of 3?
Yeah, I'd do a 2 of 3.
Okay. Cool. Have I already got your raw key?
No, I don't know how to make one yet.
Okay. Okay. Have you installed Armory?
Yes, I have Armory running.
Great. So you need to go into expert mode, user expert mode.
Oh, I got it. It's on a different.
Yeah, load it up in the background, and then if you pull it up, what I want to do is I want to get as many of the videos as possible having this in it, so that other people can then look at this video and see how they can do it themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna VNC into my other computer. Should I share my screen and show
Sure.
how we do it?
Sure. And Anna, have you got Armory? Are you interested in this?
I don't have it, and right now it's one too much topic on my plate. I'd rather take care of the things I'm already a bit good at, and maybe get on it later.
No problem. Yeah, so what I think then is we can set up like a multi-sig between Jamie, maybe John, and me, and then that's just 3 signatures to sort out, because it looks like 6 signatures is going to be a pain because people are away and they don't always respond. And then the way it works is that when you want to make a payment, someone with a live version of Armory, i.e. it's online, it's got a full copy of the blockchain running in the background, they have to create the transaction. But then all you do is you pass around a little snippet of text. Like, you can just email it, you can post it on a public forum, it doesn't matter because it's only public information, and then you have to pass it around. But the thing is, it doesn't have to go in an order, but you can't have more than one person signing it at the same time. So the next person has to come along and say, right, I'm doing it next, and then we have to wait for them to send it back. Do you see what I mean? So there are certain logistical issues with it.
Okay, I have my wallet here.
Very quick. Good. So let me just pull your screen up big. Okay, so what you do is, do you want to use either of those two? Are those two any good for you? The existing
Both
wallet?
of them are empty, so I have no vested interest in either of them. I made this counterparty one for the what's that Bitcoin group talk show with Stephanie Murphy and them.
Okay, well, let's go with primary. Double click on primary wallet then.
Okay.
And then click OK. That's for the backups. So Armory is like really, really secure, and so they constantly prompt you for best practice, which is good. Now click on the top address, number 1. Right click that, and then go interesting. Oh, are you in advanced mode? Oh yeah, so click away, close down. Am I still on screen? We should. Oh, I think maybe, Anna, that's just for you. I don't think it's for the public. That should be on Jamie's. Yeah, so click on user at the top on the menu. There you go, and then click expert. And then you have to restart.
Oh, that's going to take a while.
That's okay. I want people to see this. I want as many of these little tutorials as possible, because it'll teach people to do it, and we can tag it later.
Okay. And then it does your wallet consistency check.
Yeah. And then double click on primary wallet again.
Will it let me do that while it's still initializing?
Yep, should do. Great, and then right click on that, and then go copy raw public key.
That one. Hex.
That's right. And then just paste that to me in the chat box here.
Okay, let me see if I can. Oh, wow, it's a big long one.
Yep.
So, and that's a public one, so we can show that to the audience.
Absolutely. This is so damn clever.
I'm going to bring up Notepad here so the audience can see what that actually looks like.
Yeah, and also your one should be 18. Yes, that's right. That's brilliant. So clever, this. Okay, so this is a 2 of 3 with Chris. For Louis and Jamie. So now I put in Jamie's name, and then I need to get the other public keys.
So if people can still see my screen, I pasted it into Notepad so they can see what the difference is between a regular Bitcoin address and a raw public address. This one's a big long string of numbers and letters, and I don't know, how many characters long are they? Do you know?
I don't know. This is unique to Armory. They've kind of invented this thing. It's created from your private key, but you don't normally see it within the Bitcoin protocol itself. It's not normally exposed. I think this is something that the Armory developers have exposed.
Okay.
Because I couldn't find it referenced anywhere in the white paper or any of the development threads. So I think Armory must have done it.
Okay, so now you're in your wallet.
So that's how you do it. It's that simple. You just go to create a new multi-signature wallet. You put in the public keys. This is all public information. And why this works is because it's all managed by the miners on the blockchain. The miners simply check your signature, and they say, right, has this signature been created by the private key of this public address, yes or no? And if yes, then the payment's allowed to go through. So all of this is enforced by the miner when we eventually publish it to the network. A lot of the actual work that goes on in terms of us agreeing on what we're going to spend the money on, passing around all the little signatures, that can all take place online. It only needs one of us to have a full online connection. So now I say yes, and then what I can do, I need to share that window again. And then you get one of these, and this is like a lockbox, and then anyone, I could like post this in the comments below, and anyone would be able to put that into their copy of Armory. Now, if they don't have one of the corresponding private keys for the addresses included, then they can't do anything with it other than watch the balance. That's all they can do. But if you did have one of those public keys in your Armory, it would recognize that, and it would allow you to sign a transaction. If you had a full node running in the background, Qt, with the 24 gigabyte blockchain, it would also let you publish transactions to the network as well. So I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, and I'm going to put that into the agenda here. So
yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it actually functions when you want to withdraw the Bitcoin or transfer it out, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what the correct terminology is now. It's not really a withdraw.
You're basically reassigning ownership of those coins. That's how it works. And unlike the legacy banking system, it's full asset. So you know all the coins are there. The blockchain never loses track of a single unit. So if you're really OCD, like some of us, that's like, yeah, this is really cool. You can't lose your money. Like the blockchain never loses its money. So what I'm going to suggest when there are more of us, I'm going to suggest that the 6 of 7 that we created sends like, 10% of its funds to this wallet. And then that will get us into the habit of like, okay, how do we manage this? Like, how do you get 6 people to all come together and like, send these emails out to each other without any kind of crosstalk and negotiation like that? So probably Podio is the answer. Hello, Ksenia.
Hi, how are you doing? Sorry, I'm a bit late.
That's all right. We were just sorting out the Multi-Sig wallet. So yeah, we were just going through how to kind of set one up and manage it and stuff like that. Do you run a copy of Armory?
No, I'm not sure what you were talking about. Sorry.
So what we've done is we've set up some multi-sig wallets so that we can do fundraising and things, but then those wallets are controlled by like 3 to 7 different people across the world.
Right. Yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, so we've just set one of those up. If you're not online with the Armory already, then don't worry about it for this meeting. I can send you the links and stuff later on so you can do it. Cool, very good. So yeah, feel free to copy and paste that lockbox. Do you need me to show you how to import it, actually?
Unless you were completely on a different track, because I'm just sort of dropping in and I don't understand what's going on. So maybe
it's all very disorientating.
And you can show me later.
Yeah, I can show you later, don't worry. So, but for everyone else, if you go into the Google Doc, you can copy and paste the lockbox that I just posted. You can go import, and then I need to reshare, and it will bring up a window like this, and then you can just paste the lockbox in there, and then it will put it in there. And like I say, if you've got one of the private keys, then it will let you spend from that account. If you don't, it'll just give you an update on the current amount of funds that are in the wallet. Great. So, shall we move on to the next agenda item? I guess since Ksenia is here, why don't we talk about some of the things that you and I have been talking about on email, you know, with like the Unmonestary stuff.
Oh, right, okay. I mean, you're done with what you've been talking about? Cause
yeah.
All right. I hope I can update myself later on that one. What I was talking about is that since Unmonestary and other things that happened to us and we spoke about, basically what I'm really, really interested in is this practical aspects of like what we can actually do. And it popped up in one of your podcasts, I think the first one I ever listened to, is like, it was a bit emotional, like, oh, let's just go around and give people servers so they own their hardware and it's all right kind of ownership. So, and then I discussed a lot of this stuff in like informal conversations with people, and then recently I spoke to a person called Ella Saiter, and she's really, really cool, and we sort of started talking about this ownership of infrastructures, and she basically said, well, you know, it doesn't really matter who owns it as long as it's encrypted and control it, or encrypted or control it in any other way, because ownership itself is kind of a really weird concept, because it's just a bundle of rights which can be anything, you know. Like, I can own a car, but I can't drive it into a person because it's like contradicts other things. And I really want to invite her over in to talk about it in depth. She's into crypto and weird activism and just really intelligent, fun person. I think I should do that. So this is about control ownership of infrastructures, physical infrastructures and hardware. And then another thing that I got really interested in recently, and it's, well, there is kind of a NAF term, or kind of a popular term called digital nomadism, or nomadism, I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English. It's basically the startup-ish culture of cool people traveling around, doing some work, sitting in cabs with them MacBook Airs and stuff like that. But about a year ago, a bunch of interesting people, including Vinay, I think I mentioned him before, did some more of a philosophical series of talks about neo-nomadism and digital nomadism as like a new cool trend, and sort of taking it a bit more seriously than the shiny startup-ish culture working in cafes. But it's I didn't take a part in the meeting itself, but I kind of looked through their agenda, and it's quite interesting, but it's quite philosophical as well. So what I want to do is to practically mix this idea of like student exchanges and this digital nomadism into some sort of a tangible, resilient culture or slash infrastructure or set of infrastructures which actually does something, because it's a culture, it's like a new breed of people who just use Couchsurfing, they go to hackathons, they have amazing social...
No, so we should probably just back up a sec. So digital nomadism is this new culture of people that live a drifting lifestyle where they just work from anywhere where there's an internet connection, That's all they need, and they can go to cafes, they can go to co-working spaces, and they just kind of live this kind of peripatetic lifestyle. In history, we have this idea of the peripatetic. It was someone who just wandered around, and they didn't have like a fixed location. They could just belong to wherever they were. And the Unmonestary project is a project which involves land stewardship, or how do you call it? Land as use?
Yeah, but I mean, Unmonestary, I'm not sure how well I can represent it because it was just a weird experiment that I was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quite cool. I mean, the idea is cool. It's basically a building which is underused and people just move in it and try to do stuff. But what I was talking about, but this was like a single thing, which I think originally had to be a part of a network, but it, yeah. What I was talking about more is what James Lewis, for instance, mentioned with his Banana Republic. I don't know if you remember. It's basically rather, let me put it right, it's like what I'm talking about is not really a scale, just massive amount of people sharing spaces or sharing assets or something like that, or this hippie shared culture, but it's really small networks which just based on trust and friendship, which allow people to do that, but they have overlaps, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so the idea is to try to take seriously this culture and not just take it as just a bunch of sort of businessy, shiny, cool people, but actually use it as a phenomena that can be somehow supported and explored to just basically build people's resilience. Or maybe even
it becomes anti-fragile, and I want to hear from Anna, because I don't know, I think you might have some ideas on this, because we're building this as we speak. We've got a YouTube channel which helps us to build relationships with people at scale. You can see how we interact with each other. You can actually build rapport with us over time on these shows. It helps us to invest in our reputations and our relationships. At the same time, you've got Podio, which is a collaboration workspace that we've been using. Let me just pull this up so you can see what I'm talking about. And then, of course, at the same time as having Podio, where we can kind of all collaborate, you can see here that this is the conversation that we were having leading up to the show. You've also got these multi-signature Bitcoin wallets, which allow us to collaborate on spending and allow us to perform separation of duties, so that we can actually say, right, let's raise some money to fund this project, like Tom and I have already done. Tom,
interrupt you on that. I'm really sorry, but I maybe I should just, so it's not a dialogue, but it's kind of a proper conversation. Maybe Anna should talk first. Yeah, sorry, I changed my mind. I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Well, what am I supposed to say? Chris, you were saying you wanted to hear something from me. What am I supposed to say?
I don't know, because I have this ESP ability where I can read people's minds, and what I was getting as we were talking was that because you're very organizational and you've been helping us out by doing things like writing time-stamped comments below our videos, and you've been drafting up things, and you've been very active on the Podio, I got the sense that you might have something to say about this kind of nomadic lifestyle. And what do you feel is coming together here?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not living a nomadic lifestyle. I'm very much settled in Berlin, though it would be quite nice. But I think I still got a lot of personal attachments which hold me back from moving around. But yeah, I think things like that, like the Podio, where you can collaboratively work from anywhere, or having these hangouts where everybody from all over the world can join and participate in a project. That's pretty cool, and we should try and make more use of that. And yes, I mean, Couchsurfing is something that it's, for those people maybe who don't have the possibility to really physically relocate and move through different countries. Offering more tools like that could, not be the substitute, but maybe like a kind of a good replacement. to participate.
And I think it's good that we work with each other's strengths. So if somebody does have a fixed location, that's perfectly okay. But what that person then can bring is some sense of stability or some sense of groundedness that other people that are always on the move perhaps don't have. I find that I've always been a peripatetic, because even when I worked in my last job, I was constantly traveling. It was very difficult for me to build any routine in my life because every day was different. And then when I meet other people, it's like meeting an alien species, that they're just stuck in this kind of habits all the time. But then they would have some sense of fixture that I didn't have. I was just always wandering. I found it very, very difficult to concentrate for any length of time. And so I think this is about helping people to build on one another's diversity. Instead of seeing differences between each other as barriers and as something to be scared of, you actually try to be curious about one another's differences and see how they can be used to build on and become, as Ksenia is saying, an anti-fragile, resilient organization of people where individuals can leave and join, and people can drift away, but the organization and its core philosophy doesn't get affected.
That's true. One thing I want to add to this is it's very, very important for everybody to ask for what they're in need of. I mean, some people do have a hard time saying, "Oh, I'm so good at this and so good at that," because you're always a little bit shy about yourself and don't want to brag. But it's even more difficult to say, okay, I can do this, but I am in need and help of doing this and that. And I think that's something people should really do. If you have an idea or something, if you want to get involved in the network, support the team or support someone else with a show or build up something else. Just also not just let us know what your thoughts and ideas are, but right away also what you are in need of and where you would like to have some help, or what somebody else of the network or the people around you can do to help you achieve your goals. I think that's very important.
So let me ask you, what do you need, and what are you good at?
Yeah, I think I am quite good at organizing things. I'm not always available. Yeah, but what I would be in need of, I put it in the agenda as, yeah, maybe a later point. I had an idea for a show that, should I explain it yet or leave it up for later? Well, I haven't a show.
Let's leave it for later.
Yeah,
yeah,
so I would be in some technical support, for example, now and then.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I feel like we're sort of building a tribe online, that you're bringing people together around a sense of like a shared philosophy or a shared idea of like, this is the good life. This is what a good life should be. And then instead of just talking about it, we actually act it out. And instead of just having passive, dreamy conversations that never ever get realized, we actually have conversations that are action orientated, like we're having now. So we get our philosophical stuff from the Bitcoin group shows and Chris Before Coffee. That's where we get to philosophize. But then you've got shows like this which are more action orientated. And the reason meetings like this are good, even though they might be quite dry in terms of content, is that it helps us become more self-aware. Like the fact that we said 3 weeks ago that we were all going to do our ads, and then most of us haven't. Like, that can help us be more awake to the fact that, maybe we are all kind of like ADHD kids and we've got lots of little things coming in, so maybe we just need more time. And maybe we need to be setting more realistic goals for ourselves. But, for example, another thing that we've got coming up later on is Jamie's idea about the QR codes in the top corner, or that corner. I don't know which way around it goes. And as a result, like, that's actually proved really good. Like, I was on there the other day and someone sent me a substantial amount of funding because it was just up there in the corner, and I guess they must have just paused it. So clearly this works as a strategy, and it means that the funding for the organization, you no longer have a king that devours. You have a king that's given an opportunity to have some ownership or some control over a task, but you don't end up having these entrenched rulers that just get to rule for forever and ever and ever, and the longer they're there, the stronger they get, and the harder it is to kind of displace them. And that's what I like about what we're building. So I don't want to prejudice the project and say, like, this is definitely where it's going, because I want to see where it goes. But yeah, I like what I'm hearing so far. So yeah, I guess at the moment we're on the topic of Podio and Decentralize the world. You can see the agenda if you're just joining us. I noticed a few more people have come to the video in the last few minutes. We're on Podio and Decentralize the world. So the question is, like, how do we feel about it so far? I've only just started getting into it. One of the issues I have with it is that I never sign up for these things with my main email address. I always sign up for them with like my spam address because I don't, and as a result, I don't get the notifications. So what I'm going to do is I've already installed the Podio app for my iPhone. And if you log into that, then you can regulate how much you want to be pestered by the project. Like if you're going through a period of your life where you've got some free time and you've got some attention, surplus cognitive capacity, you can just set the notifications up to full spam, and then you'll just get spammed with it, and you can really get involved. But if you're going through, a difficult period of your life, and you can just switch the notifications off, and it will be interesting to see over the coming months who tends to join and who tends to kind of leave the network. And I think it's important to realize that the right people are here. Like whoever's here is exactly the person that needs to be here, so long as you have these kind of porous walls around the city and you don't have this kind of like entrenchment with these barricades and so on.
Can I comment briefly on what you said? Because
please, yeah.
I had this stream of stuff going through my head. Basically, we kind of experiencing the start of something like we set up this thing on Podio, and what it made me think of, and also this the wallet, is how let's say 10 years forward, when the organization is born, is kind of liquid and free and exciting and everything. I got involved in the organization, I won't call names, which in a year became a Kafkian castle with this really small core team, which is just inaccessible and really difficult to deal with. And what I think might be interesting is actually seriously look at voting and liquid democracy. And we've been using, for the organization I'm now involved in, we've been using one-click.orgs and Lumia. One-click.orgs allows the digital constitution, so basically you choose how the decisions are made by the members, and Lumia we just use for discussions when we just make a proposal and we vote on it. Lumia is a bit like any kind of project management software, like Basecamp, but with voting, and it's relatively new. The team is they're really cool people. So what I think will be interesting is, because I see all this kind of small groups having good consensus, good understanding, being able to make decisions in just a circle. As soon as it grows, as soon as you bring new people in, it just becomes a mess. And people start, let's say we've got £1 million to spend on stuff. We're going to fucking eat each other alive, And I saw it happening. It's just a normal thing that happens to every organization. And I saw like what is called intentional communities coming together and sort of being excited about it. And I'm really interested to look at kind of protocolization of these processes and just kind of be honest about, this ways to kill the company that businesses do. And the first danger I was thinking of is how do you make decisions? How do you make these processes? And because there is a really interesting bunch of people we can invite over and just talk about this. And recently I met a bunch of people working with just simple technical tools which allow this. Also, try out Lumia for World Crypto Network as well, good for prototyping kind of decision-making processes.
Can you type that into the chat box and then I'll put it up on the screen?
I also, yesterday actually, I sent a link, or I can post it on Reddit. Yesterday there's a friend of mine who is writing for some hipster Russian magazine, pinged me and she said, do you know anyone who works with online voting? And she's kind of she's not really a tech person. She writes about culture and bands and this kind of stuff. And I thought that what will be interesting is to, instead of just make her direct her to people I know who work with like online voting, digital citizenship, and all this sort of stuff, is to make a nice podcast to invite people who are a bit more radical, working with these technical tools, and invite her over as well, so she can maybe continue interview someone in person if she likes, if she wants, but really have a discussion about this. And yeah, I think I'm finished.
No, that sounds good. I like what you're saying about these small groups that get together and then they're very good at forming consensus, because clearly that's something that is desirable, because otherwise nothing really gets done if no one agrees on anything. But then what you're also saying is that over time these groups can become entrenched and they can become Kafkaesque in nature and quite, you know, difficult to penetrate or difficult to kind of diversify. And as a result, you then end up with what you've got with our global civilization at the moment, with these entrenched rulers. So the question would be something like, how do we make it more malleable? How do we get these organizations to resemble something more like an organism in nature, where they tend to flex and contract and expand according to resource availability, according to the changing environment around them?
Do you mind if I send a link to Dave as well if he wants to drop in?
Please, yeah, please do, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we have Theo Goodman joining us from Germany as well. Oh, unmute. There you go.
Hey, what's up?
You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm creating a project on that Podio thing.
Woohoo!
So, well, I mean, well, I'm trying to make the so we have to make this YouTube ad, right? A video ad.
Yeah.
And what is the ad for exactly? It's just for World Crypto Network in general, or it's for myself? Like, hey, this is Theo, I'm really cool, send me Bitcoin, or?
There's two things here. So one is your personal ad for your show, where yes, you do on the whole cool thing. You can either do a video or you can just do a graphic in Photoshop. And the idea then is you give that to other members who've got shows, and then we advertise your show on our show. You can do a video or you can do a still. Then the other one was from Carter from Bitsby Tripping, who's a master at like video editing, and he was going to do a global ad for the network itself. And so everyone is encouraged to send Carter clips of them. They don't have to be like edited clips. It can just be like, you know, please take something out from this section of the video where I think I look cool. And then he will edit a global ad for the World Crypto Network, which will go out more generally. But I guess, Theo, you don't have your own show yet, so then the question would be, do you want one? And if so, like, what would you do and stuff?
Well, sure. I just would have to actually do it every week, I guess.
Yeah. That's what we're finding, is that people do like a schedule. They do like to know when it's gonna.
Well, I do have a few people lined up that I would like to talk to, but I just haven't.
Great.
You know. Or I have to think of a name and all that kind of stuff, so I can't make it. But I could just make an ad for a possible show, I guess.
Maybe if there's more people, maybe if there's more people who have like, I have an idea for a show and I would like to go, but maybe not every week. Maybe you can have the same slot and then go twice a week and changing or something like that.
And Jamie?
And that's what I wanted to bring up too, is I'd like to do a show on Tuesdays during this time, what time it is right now, and if that would work out for the people in Europe better, because that's the time that's available best for me, and I could do that every Tuesday, and then if other folks wanted to co-host with me, and if they weren't available every week, people could jump in and out as co-hosts if they wanted to, and we could do different topics and interview different people. We could, you know, it could be a very flexible show.
I like that. I like that. So if you don't want your own show, you can just join in with Jamie on Tuesdays at about this time of the day, and then you can just kind of piggyback, like Theo has done so far, and like I originally did, where I just did guest appearances. And then over time, you can just discover what you're good at. You can take feedback from the audience and stuff like that. And you can go, oh, look, maybe I can carve out. You know what I'm thinking as we're talking about this? I think the problem with these traditional institutions and companies is that the company's personhood ends up overtaking the individual, and then ends up just existing for its own sake. And I think what needs to happen now is that we need to, rather than Chris is the World Crypto Network, and you know, I've got this cap and I wear this cap whenever I go and I try to pump it as much as I can. I think we all need to work on our own individual brands. So the company becomes a tag, and you end up having lots of tags. So this is Chris when he was on the World Crypto Network. This is Chris when he did his stuff for Feathercoin. This is Chris when he did his, you know, Bitcoin tutorials and stuff. And it ends up not having these brands that end up becoming tyrants in their own right, and end up forcing people to capitulate and just furthering the agenda of the company without really thinking about any of the stakeholders, either inside or outside of that institution. So that could be something like a goal that we could work towards. Jamie?
And I started off by trying to do my own show with interviewing people on a weekly basis. And while it's great doing that, it's very difficult to manage all of that by yourself, and it's a huge load to put on yourself, and it's a lot of stress. So by coming on somebody else's show, you don't have all that responsibility dumped on you all at once. I mean, it's nerve-wracking enough just being on camera for people in the beginning. And to come on somebody else's show, that alleviates a lot of that extra stress, and you can come on and then get better with your speaking and get better with your broadcast personality and just talking and being more comfortable being on camera. And I think that helps out a lot. And just being on Chris's show has really improved my presence on camera, because, you know, I had people were talking, oh, you talk too slow, and, you know, you do this, and I had suggestions, you know, oh, go to the thrift store and get a nice jacket so you look a little better. Don't wear your ratty flannel shirt. You know, it was just some goofy things like that. And you know, people are saying, oh, you should do wear a costume too. You know, everybody should get the
goggles. Get the goggles.
Get like a secret identity, and you know, do funny stuff too, and have, you know. So we get these great suggestions from people that don't want to be on air, but they want to interact with the network and the people on the network as well. And that was part of Anna's suggestions to, you know, be more interactive with the audience and the people that don't want to be on camera. But, you know, and if we could, what I would really like is, I wish we had a troll box on these, because doing the Q&A and stuff is kind of cumbersome, but and interacting with the audience during a live show isn't the easiest thing to do. But if there was a better way, and phone calls on an international thing is hard, and well, Skype is difficult.
If you do an event like we are now, there is a troll box beneath the thing, but at the moment YouTube doesn't, well, no one's commented on our one so far, but YouTube doesn't make it easy for you to read the comments at the same time as hosting the show. Hosting one of these shows is really stressful. You've got a lot of things to pay attention to. You've got all the microphones, you've got lots of windows open. So yeah, you can at the moment, but instead of going to broadcast, upload broadcast, you go to youtube.com/my-events, oh sorry, my live events, that's it, and then you can set up an event like that, and then that will give you a troll box. So that would help that. Okay, well that all sounds really good, and then that way, I guess you then just become responsible for your own fundraising. You become responsible for your own presence and your own identity, and then that way the World Crypto Network doesn't end up becoming dependent on you, and you don't end up becoming dependent on the World Crypto Network, and we don't end up flogging a dead horse, you know, just because we want to pump the brand or pump the idea. At the end of the day, if the company has run out, if its raison d'etre is no longer relevant to the world, then it should just die. Like, it should just fade away, and people should just move on and move on to things that are more relevant.
And then we can build each other up and build each other up as brands, and it's mutual. As the World Crypto Network, we're, like you had said earlier, we're a tribe of people all working kind of towards the same ideals, and it's a one-stop, it's kind of a central location for viewers to find us, but yet it's still decentralized in the fact that it's still in the individual's hands that are doing the broadcasting.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I want to go to David, who's just joined us. Welcome back, David. You joined us before on Chris Before Coffee, and we've been talking about how to turn World Crypto Network into, decentralized organization. I think we're doing a good job at the moment with the content, but one of the things that you're involved with is this kind of more kind of rubber hits the road. Like, actually, you were talking to me last time about, property and people, like a social kind of, or you used that in your own terms.
Yeah, I guess working on two aspects. One is the legal constitutional aspect, which marries the technical aspect. So, yeah, you can use crypto tools, Ethereum type tools, for making decisions that are enforced in code. But you can also form really interesting informal social structures that allow people to vote or decide in different ways in fluid groups, and you can then embed those group decision-making processes in more formal legal structures, which you can nest within each other. So you can create basically corporations, legal entities, whatever you call them, that really look nothing like anything that you normally associate with an organization. And there, why would you want to do that? In one way, it's quite fun because you're actually hacking the fundamental power structures of the planet when you do that. But two, when you actually do something of any real value, you do start to need to formalize the structures. It doesn't really work apart from a plaything if you're just doing, I don't know, a fun discussion or event. But if you're really trying to do something of any scale, if you do get any money involved or what have you, then you need some sort of structure. And if you just adopt the conventional sort of legal structure, you end up kind of hampering your actual projects to become pretty complex.
Well, that's right, because you end up enforcing that. You end up getting caught up in administration, right? And you've got this rule book, and then you have to keep consulting the rule book, and then you have to well, according to our bylaws, we have to do this now, and then that ends up becoming the project. And I guess we're in the business now of trying to automate this stuff away so that the computer can do the enforcement.
Yeah, I was having a fun sort of discussion about. There's a recent scientific article being published in which I've forgotten who did it now. I think it's actually an MIT study where they took some computer software to manage. It was a robot basically, but to manage a group of people working on a task. I think it was welding, and they compared it with bosses, human bosses, and with automated bosses, and they found that people preferred to be managed by the robot, and that's because they kind of didn't like to be bossed around by a person, right? And I have a friend who works on some democracy software. Vilfredo is the software, and he very much comes from the perspective of an algorithm, a neutral algorithm, deciding that people can understand and is transparent and fair. I mean, he comes from the perspective of Italy, of corrupt political processes. And I was joking with him because I come from the opposite. I come from doing software voting stuff from the 90s and really getting put off it because I wanted to include the human element. right? And I think it is a balance between the two. I do want people involved. I do want juries. I do want discussions. I want that sort of rich debate. And I see the algorithms as being a more transparent way of including more voices and allowing people to participate in decisions where their empathy and judgment is needed. Yeah, there were two aspects I said that I thought were important. One was the legal side and the decision sort of making side, but the other is kind of a more fun sort of side. So we're working on an educational project which is got two things. It's got residencies, like spaces. So I'm offering my flat where people will be able to do podcasts. And people, so at Christmas, between 3 and 6 kind of hackers can come and stay there and work on open source projects, yeah? And they'll be doing irregular podcasts. And I'm trying to make a network of those sorts of residency spaces. Yeah?
Fantastic.
And there's other projects doing a similar sort of thing, and I'm trying to network with them. There's the Banana guys, the Banana Republic guys, who are currently just leaving Berlin and are traveling around, the nomadic lifestyle. And the second part of this kind of educational project that we got funded from Nominet is to have nomadic teachers, and these are people who will be going maybe couchsurfing from place to place, going to a conference, interviewing people, and regularly doing reporting podcasts from the road, from a cafe, from a discussion they're having at a conference with people. And so you can see this network of spaces and people moving around, and podcasts are inherently part of that. That's like the communication or the voice of that kind of event, or that kind of organization in a way. It's an organization of people, properties, and these properties don't have to be owned in a traditional sense. It can be a council property or a rented property that you're just exchanging temporary use of. And an organization, a distributed organization, is the ideal thing that, you know, all these people who are teaching, moving, podcasting, getting involved in helping take part in, is what you need to run that, you know. And it's not something where you just say what you could say, but it sort of isn't a natural to the people who are attracted to that sort of project to say, all right, this should be a company with you know, a CTO, a CFO, and 4 people running it, and let's raise some money to do that, and then let's have board meetings and do that. No, it's more like a group of people that need to arrange how to swap, do kind of time sharing of their homes.
Let me jump right in then, because this I love this. So this is what I really wanted to talk to you about, is this actually, how do you relate the software to the physics of the world, like the actual reality? And I want to know more about how we can get involved with your flat sharing scheme. Like, how can more of us do that? If somebody has some property, or, you know, maybe it's an office or whatever, how do we build a sort of market there where people can share things?
I think there's a Facebook group, the Banana. Isn't it the Banana group?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Let's post the link on that. That's James and a group of people that we met when they came to the Unmonestary project, which is in Italy, which was a kind of residency, arts technical residency there. And yeah, the Banana guys are closer to sort of how I feel these projects should be, but both elements are really important. It's, in fact, there's about 3 core elements, I think, to making this a success. It's really light, kind of nomadic projects, like the Banana guys, like even individuals who go from place to place and couchsurf and teach. Then there are big buildings, kind of squats, municipally owned and donated buildings that might be free and available for people to stay in for the summer, to do work and to do residencies. These are often in rural places. And then there's a need to be able to go to the sort of cool cities where a lot of networking happens, a lot of money is, a lot of technical expertise is, maybe universities are, where it's quite hard to find accommodation and it's quite expensive, where maybe the students can just swap each other's flats in an organized way. So you have these larger kind of camp spaces in the countryside, residencies. You have smaller user sort of donated accommodation in cities, and then you have a nomadic exchange going on, which is a bit like Couchsurfing, and that network where you might have several organizations involved as well, kind of what Chris was talking about, where these are just like the organizations become like tags, and you might be part of the Banana Group, which has a certain philosophy of residency. You might be part of the Unmonestary, which has another a philosophy for its residencies. And yeah, Chris Cook was on the show a few weeks ago, a friend of mine, and him and some other people are very interested in these things called community land trusts, which would allow you to, for instance, buy and own these properties. So the network of people could, and I met some guy recently who's been offered some land, I think in Lancashire, from the council as a community land trust, and he wants to network that to the cities and have it for educational and ecological sort of projects, where people would put in £500 a year and then have the right to stay in this place, So that means you've got now to take on legal ownership of land. You've got to take subscriptions or some other form which might be transferred into currencies or tokens of some sort. I mean, you could have bloody smart locks on I could put a smart lock on my council flat, It's like, you could do these sorts of things so that you facilitate for instance, for me, I'm not going to be charging for anything like that, because one, I've got a low-cost council flat in London. I don't feel it's right to charge, but it's perfectly legitimate to exchange that for projects that are working in the local community for a temporary short period of time. So, I can go to somewhere for a month, and I can let someone stay in my flat for a month, and they can work on social projects in the area, for instance, educational projects, maybe with the mosque opposite.
So is there like a place online where people can transact and say, right, I've got this available?
Yeah.
At the moment, I would say it's earlier than that. So the Banana guys have got a spreadsheet, a Google Doc, where they're beginning to collect offers of spaces and then program it time-wise. Yeah. In the Viral Academy, we're basically introducing a time-based currency for the teaching, and we may introduce, if someone offers a residency for teachers, then they get some time credits for it. That we would be launching it in Christmas. At the moment, we're inviting people who want to get involved to say, would you like to come on a residency? Would you like to help build some of these structures? There's another project I know that are looking at portable kind of profiles, so that you know that this person with these skills was at this place, and you can search for other people who are at that place with relevant skills, and then you can kind of put groups together. And we're going to put in a session, I don't know if it's been accepted, Kate, I don't know if you know, but to the Mozilla Festival for open badges. So we're building in open badges so you can get accreditation from these kind of street courses that we've been talking about. So there's technical elements that we need to build, and yeah, it's an invitation for people to say, yeah, we'd love to come on a residency, stay in London, or
interrupt you, because I also I kind of started this discussion about more of how all is it. For instance, we have like 100 flats we can share, and we have some money to spend on stuff and so on. What I was interested in is what we actually extensively looked at is how do you manage this stuff? How do you make decisions? And I was thinking maybe what we can practically do is to make this simple digital constitution on one-click orgs or something like that. Sorry for the sound, I relocated into an Asian restaurant.
It's very anarchistic. I like it. Okay, so it sounds like we've already got the makings of like a market where people can say, right, I've got this available. The only thing I would ask, first of all, comes to mind is personal safety. Like I've been involved with squats before, and you don't usually, sometimes it can be very risky because you're sharing a space with people you don't know. How does a reputation system factor into this? Is it possible for someone to build some reputation as a community member that's part of a global community, so that when we share these spaces that we're not taking any risks to our personal safety?
Well, I mean, this kind of, I don't know, about 3 years ago it was the first time I went couchsurfing. I've been following the movement for a few years before that, but never got round to actually doing it myself. And I wanted to go and grab the guys out in California because their platform was rubbish. Cute, but they've now done something strange. In any case, rather than just reprogramming and re-implementing everything, what would be great, and if you've got the right legal structure, is to kind of to create partnerships, invite people in. So using other people's platforms, whether it's a currency platform or whether it's a couchsurfing platform, and then integrating them through an API in a service, and working out what the sustainable financial model for that sort of or organizational model for that networked organizational structure is to me a key. So, for instance, I've seen it the best way of organizing this residency program would be to make a deal with Couchsurfing. And now that Couchsurfing has kind of pissed off half its membership, there's the what's the kind of open Couchsurfing called now? It's called what's it called? Basically, yeah, there's a kind of fork of Couchsurfing community, which is a bit more sort of idealistic. So they have a platform. So ideally, what we would do is we'd make a partnership with them, and we would have a group within Couchsurfing, or I forgot what they call it, WeShare. They're not WeShare. There's something like that. We'd have a group within them, which is longer term Couchsurfing. Sorry?
Is it open Couchsurfing?
No, it's not. It's called something strange. Something different. I've forgotten the name now.
All right, well, carry on. I'll search for it as well.
In the links, yeah. But ideally, what you would do is I mean, if you had, again, an API, you can customize that, you can create it in your own group, embed it in your website, and then you've got the synergy between the different projects. People who go on the Couchsurfing site can go for and then they can find this group, which is an educational exchange, and they say, and then you get all the reputation infrastructure that goes with that community. So Couchsurfing, what they typically do, I don't know, I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, but you prove you don't have to, but if you want to be trusted more, you prove your identity and location by getting a postcard sent to your location, by making a credit card donation, and then most importantly, by people recommending you, like as on TripAdvisor in a sense.
I don't know what Couchsurfing even is.
Sorry. So Couchsurfing is basically, let's say, I'll tell you the story of when I first went Couchsurfing. So I got invited to be a speaker at a conference in California somewhere, and the flight was paid, and then they pulled out and said, oh, sorry, we can't afford the hotel, because the hotel was going to be like $4,000 or something like that, you know, for the 4 days or whatever it was, right? And I said, oh, I think I know someone out there. I'll see if I can. Kay, why are you calling me? In any case, I'm just going to try and turn this off. So I called some friends, and they were all out of town, and I'd never been to California, and they said, hell, I'm going to try Couchsurfing. I've heard about it. And there's a website. You go to the website. I put in the location of the conference, which was in Santa Monica, I think. Can't remember. And to my sort of pleasant surprise, I found, well, first of all, I found, when I put it in just San Francisco, I found like 1,800 offers for that weekend, right? And I thought, oh, that's a bit much. So I actually then put in exactly where the conference was, and within 2 miles of the conference center, I found 14 offers, and I stayed with this amazing guy. I saw his photograph, I saw his ratings. He was like about 55, 60. He was retired. He ended up that he used to work for NASA, and he was designing an electron microscope for NASA that you could drop onto Mars, which has to be really lightweight and stuff like that. He had, you know, it was just brilliant. I stayed there for 4 days for free. We ate pizza, we cooked together. He was a great guy. He had other, and it's a great community. And since then, I've been to Turkey. I've been all around.
So it's let me ask a question then to see if I understand. So it's if you need to go somewhere, you go on this website and look and see where you're going, and it's like basically if you're going to go stay with your relatives in another city or another place, and you just stay at their guest bedroom or whatever, or sleep on their couch, except for this is somebody you don't know.
That's right, yeah. And the reasons people do it are very interesting. So I met some Turkish people who wanted to travel the world but had a problem doing that because they couldn't get the visas and things like that. And they ended up just hosting people. So they got people from Eastern Europe, they got people from Scandinavia, and they learned like all these languages. And then they got invited over, and it's actually, it can be really rewarding actually hosting people. And you have to address all these trust issues.
Because I actually thought about the Couchsurfing as well. Can I black hat it a bit? Because what I don't like about Couchsurfing, and anything which becomes huge, I think what I like about Banana and is basically, if you think about it, Couchsurfing sort of becomes centralized because it's just one big system. What I was more thinking of, if there are separate groups who can possibly, you can possibly use 2 of them or 3 of them and somehow have shared reputations, but they're still kind of managed as decentralized core organizations.
Well, funny you should mention that. We've got this thing, it's called a blockchain. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's this revolutionary new decentralized thing. And look what you can do. You can create a PGP, public-private key, on Keybase. I can invite you. They've given me some more invites. So if you haven't got it already, just send me a message on Twitter or something. And you can claim ownership of your Twitter account, your GitHub account, your website, and you can put your Bitcoin address, and then you publish. This is called a PGP fingerprint. Now, let's say I rent out my flat, and people come and stay with me. I can then publish a recommendation for that person in the blockchain. Anyone can write an API that can call that, and then that way you're not reliant on centralized websites that can go out of business and you lose all that reputation you invested. Yeah, PGP is pretty good privacy. It's an open source public-private key. It's the same technology that Bitcoin uses for the public-private key pairs. And what that means is that I can send anyone in the world my public key, which is generated from my private key that I keep very, very safe. It's like a really, really long password that you could never remember yourself, so you keep it in a file. And whenever you want to send me an encrypted message, you just encrypt it with my public key, and only I can read it. Now, there are some vulnerabilities with it. For example, if someone physically seizes your computer, they then have access to all of your correspondence. So as a sender of a message to someone with a PGP key, you need to be mindful of the fact that someone could physically abscond, sorry, not physically, kidnap is the word I'm looking for, that person, and then you might be thinking you're communicating with them when you're not. Now, I'm encouraged by some new technologies that are coming out, which do things like wristbands, which take your electromagnetic signature from your heartbeat, that you can then use to encode your PGP key. That would still leave you vulnerable whilst you were sleeping or unconscious. For example, someone could just knock you out and then put that on you. But the people are working on this. You have, at the moment, you have 3 levels of personal encryption. You have something a password, something you have, like a 2-factor password on a device, and then something you are, which is biotech, ECG rhythms, or you get these things you can put on your head now which take your brain waves and stuff like that. So we need to be planning for the next sort of 5-10 years rather than planning for things that have already happened. I think a lot of these problems can be solved right now. Yes, we may be early adopters and we may have to kind of put up with some bugs and stuff, but I think we can kind of carve out this movement so that we don't have to rely on these central reputational databases. We can right now start publishing these recommendations into the blockchain.
I think there's a role for small groups, which you can call companies. So, for instance, I don't like. I've been fighting individualism ever since I can remember. So I like small groups, and I don't like big groups and centralization. But I also don't like individuals. Individuals are pernickety creatures. It's kind of joking, but what these organizations, these small organizations can do is they can capture trust as well, or they can be brands for trust, and different sorts of things. So, for instance, with my flat, I don't want to put it on. It is on. I have used it for Couchsurfing, but it's a big central, like Kay was saying, organization, and individuals come by. But what I actually want to do is I want to make a relationship, a long-term relationship with 4, 5, 6, certainly no more than 15 or 20 spaces in places that I really like, that I can go and spend 1 or 2 or 3 months at, and continue to work. And to do that, I need to trust and get to know these other spaces. And then what you have is a network, a quite small network of 10 or 15 people that we form a long-term relationship for. I mean, you're talking about an organization there. And then that organization has trust associated with. So when someone wants to come and stay, let's say at one of these spaces, they can say, oh, this person has been involved in this network of spaces for the last 7 years, and this group seems cool, so I trust this person and this place to stay in. You know? And I think that's where it becomes really interesting when you use the sort of tools that crypto tools that Chris was pointing out, but then you use them to form long-lasting or fluid groups of people that are working together on collaborative projects, and that way you kind of get you can get the best of both worlds, I think, between what you have with organizations and centralized big companies and what you get with the freedom that comes with individuals and people following their own conscience.
That's fantastic. Yeah, what I was going to say is someone donated to me on Twitter, and what I did with that money is I bought a laptop. This is like, I don't know, 500 grams or something. It's like a little open source Melee, and it's got Ubuntu on it. I haven't booted up yet, literally it arrived yesterday. And what I'm going to do with this is actually use this as offline storage for all the keys with a bootable memory stick that's encrypted. So the whole memory stick is encrypted, the whole thing. And I'm only going to correspond with a certain PGP signature on this laptop. So what that will mean I'll have to do is people will send me their messages, I'll copy them to a USB stick, then I'll take it onto here and I'll correspond on here. So this has got a physical air gap. This will have no Ethernet connection because I'm going to hack it and I'm going to rip out the Wi-Fi after I finish with it. So it will be neutered, like it will have no physical capability of interacting with the network. And what that does is it makes it ultra secure. All the money that I look after for fundraisers will be ultra secure. Even if someone captured me, they're not going to be able to get any kind of access to it. And I think this helps to enforce the robustness of the reputation system. Every time I give someone endorsement, that's going to carry with it this confidence that, you know, these keys are well managed, these claims that are being made on the network are trusted and secure. And then any business is then incentivized to take the data that we're populating on the blockchain and start building their own business out of it. They can start taking that, you know, data, that raw oil, if you like, that raw mineral of the reputation data, and start building graphs, analytics, saying, look, you know, how trustworthy Ksenya is or whatever. What do you guys think about that?
The first thought is I hope you don't drop it.
Yeah. Well, it will be backed up. It'll be on this, so. Yeah, but you're right. I should probably back up my keys. It's a good idea.
Chris, do you know much about trusted computing?
Say more.
It's basically, it's been a while since I looked at it, so I'm going from memory. It's basically a hardware which is provable in terms of the implementation of the code. So you know that the hardware itself cannot be spying or misinterpreting what you're doing, because it's kind of you can trust the hardware. It's a way of developing hardware that you can absolutely trust. And a lot of people are trying to, create freedom phones, freedom boxes on trusted hardware using open and components, and then designing them in certain ways that means that if someone tries to tamper it, the hardware kind of refuses to run.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, I came across that when you're talking about trusting this laptop of yours, right? Which I'm not sure about, to tell you the truth, was that the only realistic, or the best real way of creating a trusted computational platform was to use Amazon Web Services in some way. And I thought, wow, that doesn't quite go together. But if you look it up, you can dig it out. You can basically create, because, I mean, obviously you have to, and with the NSA kind of thing, but even, I don't know, I want to look into this more. It's like, the idea is that, because of the particular hardware they use, and because this distributed scaled network way it's done, it's probably as close as you can get to running like a trusted computer with trusted code that can't be hacked. And I'm going, I'm not quite sure I believe that. So I was just wondering if you know more about it.
There are some conspiracy theories, for example, that CPUs since about 2007 have been compromised by the NSA, and they can do all kinds of things. There are people working on this. In particular, there's something called homomorphic encryption, which is where you can control a blob of data anywhere in the world on anyone's server, and the person that takes custody of the data, where it's domiciled, doesn't have any intelligible access to that data. You can remotely, like you could store your whole operating system and all your personal files on Dropbox and run it like remotely, and the Dropbox would never be able to see inside of it, but you'd be able to access it dynamically. You can do that at the moment with something like Apple's got encryption tools in Disk Utility, but the problem is people are kind of skeptical because, of course, you can't see the source code. And as Richard Stallman has been campaigning for 30-odd years now, he's been saying, look, if you don't control the code controls you. And I guess, David, that's what you're basically saying, is that because we don't see the code, we don't know that we can trust it because we don't know what it's up to. And the same goes for the hardware.
But yeah, but I think scaling trust in a better way, rather than just using brands or just using the conventional country king queen, politician company way of saying, okay, I trust this, because it's the church, because it's the government, because it's the police, because it's Amazon, because whoever it is. But scaling trust is probably going to be one of the if we manage to do it properly, one of the most profoundly liberating technologies that we've ever created.
No, I totally agree. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that's, I guess, what we're talking about right now. So I want to bring it back to the agenda. Anna, did you have any thoughts on this?
Sorry, I missed the last couple of minutes. My connection went down, and so I missed like the last 5 minutes or so.
Oh well, we were just talking about these kind of reputation systems, and about I want to try and relate our project. I don't want our project just to be like a YouTube channel. I want it to be more than that, and I want it to really touch the earth. I want it to be like grounded, so that if somebody does want to be this kind of nomadic teacher, one of the concepts we came up with was that I can kind of go around, I can teach about the blockchain, but I'm going to need somewhere to stay, so people can advertise their flats and things like that. But at the same time, you're going to need a reputation system. What role do you think someone like you, who's good at organizing and is fixed, and you've got a regular schedule, you can go into Podio? Do you see yourself having a role as kind of like a coordinator of things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be good if we could figure out a way how to coordinate it by itself, But I will definitely try to figure out. I can try if there's a way to Podio, or maybe if it could be linked somewhere, or setting up a group, something like that.
The only thing I think that needs to be added to Podio at the moment is some kind of public RSS feed, so that other people, what I want to do is create this kind of scaled structure so that it's easier for someone to get to the top of the decision-making tree than it is to stay there. So what I would envisage is a Podio with, say, no more than 20 people, that's a number I picked out of thin air, that can have decision-making control, like they can set up an app, they've got admin rights, but then everyone can look at what's happening. Anyone can be a spectator. And if somebody, like we've had James, I think, sort of commenting in the troll box as we've been on air, and if he has some thoughts, then he can still come in and I don't know, put a comment somewhere, and if we then build a rapport with that person, they can then be integrated and become an admin. Because what will happen naturally is people will drift away anyway. People will go on to other projects and they'll leave. So we'd probably want a cycle time of, let's say, 3 months, and every 3 months we look at the people that we've currently got on board, and if people are starting to drift off, we send them a message saying, look, we noticed you haven't been around so much, we'd like to make room for someone who wants to bring some energy to this role. And then that new person kind of comes in. And what I think this would be good for is that when, let's say, I'm out and I'm doing talks at universities and things like I've done already, I can actually record these, broadcast them. And of course, this needs to be funded somehow. People need a way of financing the video equipment, the sound equipment, things like that. So we're going to need a project manager, if you like, someone who's going to like keep people on. Because I'm terrible at organising my time, for example. It's always helpful to have somebody who's going to go, right, here's what you need to do by this time or I'm going to kick your ass. And ask
I can definitely do a lot of that. But yeah, of course, always depending on time availability. Yeah, but as long as my free time or my spare time, let's say that, allows it, I'd love to do things like that. And it's just, I'm always a little bit, I don't want to step on people's toes, and sometimes then I start to feel like the big bad dictator and saying, okay, here I assign 10 tasks to you.
No, we need to hire some bosses. We need to have like 3 bosses. Yeah. That just go around saying, like, have you done this yet? Have you done this yet? Okay, and I want to go to Ajan next. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, spoken with yourself and with Jamie about the secular project I hope to have running shortly called Democracy. And much of what you folks have been talking about would very much fit in with a lot of what I want to achieve. It has to be non-secular, but Christians can come, Hindus, yoga, and if these centres are in communities, you could go from one to the other. I'd much rather have a chat off air with anybody that's interested. I'm in the middle of registration process, but my project would be community based for yoga groups, homework clubs. It would be what most people would refer to as a community hall, and the yoga class can work there. A monk could give a talk, but I would rather keep it away from being God's debating chamber. Practical uses, if somebody wants to run a painting or teaching guitar club on a Saturday afternoon or things like that. So if I can get my registration done, I already have a piece of land marked out, and in Thailand it's very easy to move around. People can stay at temples. We can go in and we can ask the abbot if we can stay overnight. The people who sell brushes and goods around towns move from one town to the other. Thailand has a very nice network for the poor to move around. The West, it's got better internet connection, but the social side and the temple's missing. And I've spoken to Ben Vickers by email, who's doing the Unmonestary project, and I would like to get in touch with them at some point, because we have a lot of common ideals, and perhaps the experience of monks living without money, being nomads, and my skills are really in ideas, how to get things done without money and big finances and stuff. So I've listened to everybody's chatting, everybody has their own areas and ideas, and I'm mining a lot of information. And although I'm sitting quiet, I'm writing notes and I'm typing on the chat. So just the technical side, I'm not, I'm an engineer, but I'm not familiar with the tech, so I have to brush up on that. And anybody can contact me via Gmail or whatever way they want to get in touch, and I'll be happy to share any ideas or experience.
Well, that sounds great. So it sounds like we're all looking for somewhere to go. We all want to keep doing these kind of channels and having these conversations, but we need to exist somewhere. Sounds like some people have got access to space already, that it's kind of a surplus, that we've got, you know, more space than we need, and then we just need a way of broadcasting that, a way of advertising that. One of the things in the agenda that I put at the bottom was the waiting for. We've still got a few things we're waiting for. One of them is Chris McCready, who has got a web design agency in London, who's very generously offered to do a World Crypto Network website. So what I'm meeting with him next week, hopefully, and when I do, I will bring up this video. I'll send him the timestamp, and one of the suggestions I would like to make is that we find a way of building a reputation system that is just, you know, rudimentary. A bit, since Ethereum isn't quite, you know, isn't online yet, let's just start off with the blockchain, or we could start off with Doge Party, which is what Theo has suggested before, so we're not jamming up the Bitcoin blockchain, and start advertising our space. Like, you know, someone's got access to some space here, you just put down the times and the availability, you just sign it with your PGP key so we know it's from you. You can either put that in the blockchain, or you can put that on the WCN website and we'll do it for you. And then that way, because the data is public, it means that if World Crypto Network goes bust or whatever, you know, the website gets shut down, that information is still public. Maybe it hasn't been put into a nice fancy website, but it's still there if a developer wants to come along and code up a new front end for it. So what Chris would probably do is he'd make a nice website where each of us could have a profile page. It would probably just be done in WordPress. It wouldn't be, for now, let's just hack it, yeah, not over-engineer it. And each of us could have like a public profile. We put our PGP key. We say, right, I've got this space. If anyone wants to join me, then you can come here and it's available at these times.
Yeah, and you know what I see part of the World Crypto Network doing too is being a network to bring people together like this and share ideas, and it's a brainstorming network. And you know, I didn't know what Couchsurfing was. It was something that I do already, but I just didn't know the term for it. And I didn't know there was a website for it. Like my wife right now, she went to Florida, but she's not staying in hotels or anything. She's staying at people's houses. And she's coming back this afternoon. But she went for a whole week on vacation, and she's staying with people, and she didn't rent a car or anything. She went and stayed with people, and she got rides around Florida with them for an entire week. And you know, there's so many different non-traditional ideas like this that in America it's a weird concept for people to even consider that, where everybody is like, oh, I got to go on vacation, I need to go book a hotel room and all this other stuff, and you know, it costs a fortune.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we just need a way of like advertising our space and then allowing people to build reputations. I guess it will require a little bit of research. One of the things I'm doing at the moment is I'm building a curriculum for a course. I mean, I've already been doing it informally with people, but teaching people how to buy their first Bitcoins, how to set up a wallet safely. And once I've kind of done that, then people can do some fundraising, and I can travel around. I can go wherever anyone wants me to go and teach people. I do get requests. People ask me to come to their companies or their universities, and I teach people. But it's rather informal, and there's no kind of like every time I do it, it's a little bit different. So it would be nice to kind of have that built out in a bit more of a rigorous structure.
Chris, we're going to have to do a session on this sort of and how you can make things like this viral. I mean, it sounds like, you know, there's so much synergy between all these people. It's kind of just funny. It's like, you know, Sita here talking about the Unmonestary. Me and Kay were there for 3 months. We've got another group of monks that are coders that work on mobile apps, people who can do project management. I mean, people who've got spaces, like you said, people who can do websites. But it's the glue that enables all these people to kind of work together, and we're getting bits of the glue with like these funny currencies, bits of the, but we haven't got enough of the glue yet. So when you ask someone to help organize the podcast, you know, it's like classic sort of problem of sort of like, you know, I don't know, the example in film industry is you always need someone who's a cameraman or someone who's doing that, and you've got you've come out of film school, so the producer is just asking favors from all these people, and all these people who are got those particular sorts of skills, they're just constantly being asked to help other people, and they really never get anything back out.
Tell me about it. Right? I used to work in the film industry for 12 years. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What needs to happen is we need some sort of exchange mechanism. The other thing is with the whole sort of land and stuff, the other thing that goes wrong is like someone like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, is it Sita?
Oh, this is a Jan.
A Jan, okay. Jan.
Yeah, my name is pronounced with a J, Jita Tamil, but I think it's easier if everybody just says a Jan, and then we can use that for any teacher or monk who comes on the show.
Well, so Jan, it sounds like you've got like access to some space or what have you. It might need to be developed. It might, you know, you would like to teach it in Thailand somewhere. What often happens, and with that sort of project and with other groups, you know, it's a bit like the sort of recurring history of squatting. Is someone like yourself finds a place. It might take you a couple of years to find and just basically set it up, but a whole bunch of people put lots of work into that space. Often you don't legally own it, but you're allowed to be there. You trust the owner. You've squatted it or something like that, or you've got a lease. And after about 10 years of people putting all this work, it becomes like really successful. It's been done up, and the area often gets improved.
David, could I interrupt you a second? One of my ideas is to get a piece of land. So maybe the first one I used for 5 or 7 years, and I work in it there, and I would maybe design it with the idea of handing it over to a disabled group or something else. So we go into an empty space, put something there for someone in the future, or a school, a disabled group.
I didn't quite hear all of that. But what I'm trying to, what I really think is missing with is like, for instance, if all these people who are doing that, there's like, we could quite easily find 10 other projects or 10 people doing a similar thing to you, looking for land, wanting to use it for community use, needing helpers to help dig, build, needing to be able to, wanting teachers to come and teach, whatever, this sort of activity. And if you create a legal entity in which all of that land can be put in trust, owned by the community, and you put in place structures so that the camera person or the builder or the teacher, right, by putting in some physical time and labor, gets like some influence, some stake in the ownership of this community asset, right? Then everyone starts to be able to work together, and no one's feeling exploited, and it doesn't just get sold at the end to some property developer who says, thank you for your 10 years work making this a cool, popular place for people to come, right? So the missing thing is that kind of, for me, that legal infrastructure that allows us to cooperate according to principles and not just for making money.
Yeah, well, let's just say, for me, I don't have a problem getting offers of land or areas to work. Thailand's got quite a lot of land. It's quite easy to find places, but a lot of people want to do it because I'm a monk. and I want to try and shift that to say, well, let's make it a community space. Donate it to the monk, they get their merit and stuff. The community, and lock it in a trust so that that's all that the land can be used for. Same as temples in here, they're not sold. Once it's donated into the temple, it's never transferred out. So if we done a right of use for the community, it becomes community land. The whole village would have to say that they wanted it sold on. Maybe even an old house that's needing repaired and the family can't afford to do it, and say, well, we'll pay you some small money, go and live somewhere else. Let us have 5 or 10 years and do it up, hand it back and move on. And if you do a good job, I'm sure there'll be a queue of people willing to donate space or own property.
So this, I really like where this conversation's going. Can I just push it forward a little bit, because I think this is relevant. So I've been taking notes as well from the troll box below the video. I've been putting a lot of the relevant ones in here. So this is in the Google Docs. It's also below in the description at the top. So just click on that and you can come and see it, so we don't forget anything. I've also got links to some of the things that we discussed, like the banana group, the Couchsurfing, and the trusted computing. But the next issue, and I think the reason I want to bring this up now is because it relates really well, is the fundraising aspect using Patreon and the lower third. So the first thing I wanted to say was the Patreon. Tom and I have had some moderate success. You can see here that Tom gets paid $197 per month for his videos, which is nothing to shake a stick at. And he hasn't, like, neither of us have really like pushed this because, well, particularly me, I'm terrible at self-promotion. But what would be really nice is if we could get some champions, right? People championing each other. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to go to patreon.com. If you've been involved in this conversation, or if you've just been watching at home but you want to get involved, I'm thinking Anna as well, maybe you do. Set up a Patreon page. It gives people somewhere to go so that they can support you financially. Of course, as well as that, Jamie brilliantly came up with this, gave us this website as a suggestion, which is hangoutmagics with an X at the end.com. And here what you can do is you can put in your name and you can type that in. You can then upload a logo, which you can then upload your Bitcoin QR code, which you can generate here at bitcoinqrcode.org. I would suggest you put like the Bitcoin actual symbol in there so that people know what it is, when they know what to expect. And then you just upload it. It automatically sizes it for you. Now, the one thing it won't do initially is it won't put it in the top right hand corner of the screen, which is annoying because it gets obscured by everyone's thumbnail when we go on air. So what you need to do is just take it into Photoshop. It's really easy. You just draw a little marquee around the QR code and you just copy and paste it up to the top. What I'd recommend is you move the Hangout Magics logo here below it, because we obviously want to pay tribute to their website. It's a free service. And then just put your logo right up there, and then just encourage people and just say, let's build a culture of tipping so that people actually get used to seeing this around whenever you're on air. And bear in mind that these videos will be online probably forever. So you need to make sure that the Bitcoin address you use is safe and secure. Don't have it linked to a Coinbase account, because you may one day lose control of that. Coinbase may go out of business. They may shut down. It may get hacked. And if so, your video is still getting donations 2 years from now. And of course, you're not able to collect any of that. You're not able to tell everyone that your account was hacked. So make sure that whatever Bitcoin donation address you use is secured safely in your physical possession. I preferably on a USB stick, or in Armory or something like that, so that it's so you can get that long tail. And what that does is it means that as you're going around and you're doing all these talks, it means the more you do, the more you can earn indefinitely. You actually build a passive income. Every piece of information, every insight you ever come up with in these conversations can be earning you money forever. And I really like that idea. So this is really just a call to action. And that was it. What do you guys think?
I have a question, Chris, about the Patreon sites.
Yeah.
You have to put in your personal information in that, right?
Well, you have to attach it to a at the moment a PayPal account. Patreon themselves don't ask you for personal information, but obviously PayPal will, and so you have to assign it to that.
Okay, I was just Because that's been my biggest thing about signing up for a Patreon account, and I don't want to accept dollars.
Right. Well, unfortunately, yeah. So that's really only if you're interested in accepting traditional legacy banking money. The reason why Tom and I thought it was a good idea for some people is that your audience may not be on with Bitcoin yet. So that was why we said, look, have the QR code on your Hangout, third, and then also have the Patreon as well. But it's entirely optional. Yeah, if you don't want to go with the Fiat system, then of course you don't have to.
It sounds great, Chris. How do you envisage the next steps of sticking things together? I mean, I'd certainly look. I mean, I know both me and Kay, I'm sure, would be really interested in extending this idea of linking teaching and the podcasts from different locations, and the links you just shared from Patreon and Hangouts is an interesting way as well of like funding the teachers. I would very much like to develop further links with spaces around the world. That's maybe a slightly longer term burn. I don't know, but I'm just wondering because I got to go now. It's very important. Chelsea are playing Everton.
That is important.
So I'm just wondering what you think of the next steps.
I think for you, David, sign up to, give me your email address in the chat box here. I'll sign you up to Podio. Ksenia's already on there. Anna's already on there. So Anna's really kicking ass on there, so that's really cool. And then that way we have somewhere where we can like collaborate and organize. So there's a few things that have come up, I think, that are next action items. Setting up Keybase account. Please petition me for an invite and I'll make sure that you've got an invite. And what that will do is it will act as like, okay, this is authoritatively my identity. This is my PGP fingerprint. This is my Bitcoin address. These are my social media things. So whatever happens to you, we know we can go there. And then optionally, you've got Patreon. Optionally, you've got Patreon. Optionally, you've got the Hangout thing if you want to do that with the lower third and the QR code. But then we've got somewhere where we can go to if we need to know that this is you, for example. And then next week I'm meeting Chris McCready, and we'll go through how we actually want to design the front end of this so that people can have their own profiles on worldcryptonetwork.com, and you can actually start to advertise your space and come up with like a Google map or something like that. So that people can say, like, where's near me? I mean, what would be quite nice is if we could actually give rise to a kind of a movement, like a global network of collaboration spaces that are open source, and people can just come to a map on our website and say, well, where's the nearest one to me? And if there isn't one, you can set up your own and you can come onto the show. And what would be really good is if people could actually leverage our network, leverage our reputations on YouTube as gaining trust themselves. So maybe if you don't have an identity at the moment, you can just get to know us and we can vouch for you. Skynet, yeah, like Skynet, but with soul. Skynet with a soul.
I've done quite a lot of work on mapping before, and so we'll be helping to make some of the tools and running them as courses. So if people want to learn how to make a mobile app for the network, let's say, maybe or some people want to learn how to access the blockchain data through an API and create a web service. Each one of these we can kind of form little classes for, teach ourselves how to do them, publish them, create some open code to bootstrap it. So we'll be running stuff on mapping. We've got this thing called real space associations with some maps where you have real spaces around the world, that are open to people doing this sort of thing. Yeah, that sort of technology would be great. But I mean, the other thing is, why don't we just fuck all this and go for a drink sometime, Chris?
I think that's definitely a next action item. Anna, make that happen. Schedule that in. And no, it's yeah, I think it's absolutely right. I'll be up next week. I don't live in London. I live outside of London, so I have to commute in. So I like to line a few things up. So I'm around then. And
by the way, people who are not in London, we can do simultaneous virtual drinking. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and that's really cool. Yeah, so thanks very much for coming on, guys. Ksenia, David, that was really cool. I really love your input and your energy.
Okay, lovely to meet you all again. Cheers, take care.
Cheers. Great. Okay, so that is that section. Ads for shows. I guess we talked a little bit about that already. Yeah, so my one, for example, would probably be the one that I did when I was in America, the video I did when I was in America. But like, for example, Jamie, do you have anything that immediately comes to mind that you can just send in? I think just send a link to the video and maybe like a timestamp or something.
For which video?
Well, any video you feel represents, that you would feel happy using as an advert. This was for Carter and Bitsby Trippin'.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to be making some videos this weekend, and that's what that original video that I put on Podio was for, was him. And I'm colorblind, and I have an awful time with lighting, so it's terrible for me to try, because like for me now, my video looks orange to me.
It does, yeah. Yeah, you need to get you on a Mac or a PC.
I'm on a PC. I tried doing this white balance thing with the paper.
Yeah.
But it still turned out this color.
Yeah, you don't want to have it too close to the screen, otherwise the screen influences the color. So you need to have it back to where your head would be and then do it from there. Is what I would recommend. But so I just do it manually. Like I've got webcam settings, but that's for a Mac. But it works with the Logitech camera that I've got, and it just edits the color. It does mess up sometimes with Hangouts, so I have to keep resetting it. But yeah,
so I should just have somebody look and see what looks natural and adjust it when I'm on a Hangout with them, because I can't tell what's really natural looking.
Yeah, but I think Carter can sort that out. I think for the advert, like there are two things. You need to send a video and say, right, use a section of me talking here, and you need to come up with a personal advert, because that'll be a global one for the network. You need to come up with a personal advert for other people and other shows to advertise your show within theirs. So I would actually, for me, I would probably prefer a still image. And I might ask one of the guys on Twitter that are really good at Photoshop and doing stuff, maybe they could do one for me, and I'll just send them some coins. But that's another thing you need to think about as well. And also think about, like, also, I don't know, Anna, like whether you feel like having your own show, or Ksenia, maybe you want to do a show. Have a think about what kind of message you want to get across. Think about your personal brand. Like, how do you want people to understand you? Like, what are you all about? So that would be a good thing, because you're going to need some text on there. You're going to need like a reason to believe. Like, why does the other person believe that they need to give me some of their scarce attention and time? It's an existential question. It's a very kind of deep, personal question, but it's just something to kind of think about,
Yeah, I got to think about that. And think about putting it into words. Yeah.
Anna, do you want to take part in more shows, like as a guest speaker?
Probably, yes. Yes, I'd say yes. It's sometimes a little bit difficult with the time, the time zones, because I'm not such a night owl, and it's like starting at midnight, it's always a little bit. But
yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what then.
But yes, in general, that's okay.
As an action item, why don't we've had this comment before, especially people in Australia say the same thing. So why don't we create an action item in Podio right now where everyone puts down their hours? Like everyone says, right, I tend to be available at this time. You can use the website World Time Buddy, which I've been using, but also within Podio itself, if you set your personal time zone, it will just convert all of the times for you. So
yes.
Let me just pull this.
So we're supposed to have a host app, so a list of everyone who's hosting a show, and there's gonna be a field for everyone's time zone, and maybe we can add something not only for the time zone but also for the hours or days they are or aren't available.
Yeah, exactly. I would probably suggest that you put down your time in UTC. So if you go to World Time Buddy and just put in your time zone, and then just we can just create a list somewhere and just say, right, Anna tends to be available on weekdays from 11 a.m. to, I don't know, whatever it would be, like 3 p.m. UTC, and then we can all just ground ourselves in UTC like that.
UTC is CET or GMT?
It's GMT, but it's been renamed. We went off the gold standard in 1972, so now we have to use this UTC thing.
We just use Google calendars because it...
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, Google is whatever evil, but you just, well, someone puts it in your calendar, in a shared calendar, and then you just see it in your time zone. So you don't really need.
Well, yeah, but that's what we were saying, that Podio does that as well.
Oh, Podio does that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
The only thing is, this isn't public, and Google is. Let's wait for Marnie to tell us if she can create some kind of public feed. Because if she can, then our calendar, like here, this calendar. Can I click on that? Let's see what happens. Okay, great. So probably this can be published, I'm sure. Use external calendar. There you go. And yes, I guess what you do.
Sorry, if you're redoing the website, I think this is planned and in progress, and then most of the things like the calendar and everything can be put into and displayed on the World Crypto Network website.
Brilliant. So this would then just become published on the World Crypto Network, and then everyone would just put in their times of like, this is when we're available, this is when I'm available, and that way you can use that to coordinate your efforts. Like if you want Anna on your show, then you know that you need to schedule it for that particular time zone. And we've still got as well the actual schedule here where people can feel free to put in time slots. And because we don't want to have, you know, that problem that most news networks have where they say, well, that's all we've got time for this week, sorry to interrupt you halfway through. We don't have that problem because we've got abundance. Like, so you can just have these meandering conversations and we don't have to stop it early. So just pick a whole afternoon or a whole morning and you can just go on as long as you like, and you've got the number of viewers is published. Like right now we've got 25 people watching. So I know that if it gets boring for people that, you know, hello. I know that if it gets boring for people, that I know it's probably time to kind of wrap up the conversation. You can just kind of feel that the energy starts to kind of ebb and flow.
It's funny you say that because I think half a year ago we did something that we called Formstorm, but I can talk about it more. But the idea was that people can just split off in different groups, and because it's Google Hangouts, you can just basically go and follow them and sort of go on another channel. It's almost like TV, but you see people wander off and they say, okay, we're going to talk about liquid law in this one and BTCs in this one, so you can basically switch.
Breakout sessions, that's what it is. You're breaking out.
Yeah, breakout session. Exactly, that was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, fork it. Just go off and do your own one. Okay, well that sounds really good.
It would be funny though if someone talks too much, then people just wander off, and you just see people leave because they.
Yeah, yeah. You just got to look at people's what do they call it? Vibe scanning. So what you do is you vibe scan the group, and if people feel like getting a little bit eye contacts, getting lost and stuff like that, just be conscious of it. Just be like, okay, maybe it's time for me to move on. If somebody hasn't said anything and it's been like an hour, like I've noticed Anna and stuff like that, so like then go like, what's Anna think about this? You know, because usually the person that does the least talking usually has the most interesting thing to say because they've had more time to think and percolate the ideas, and they don't always realize that. So you have to kind of build an environment that's conducive and adaptive to other people rather than making them adapt to your system. The system has to adapt to people, not the other way around. That's the problem we've got at the moment, where if you want to get into government, you've got to put on a suit, you've got to get funding, you've got to fill out these forms, and it's only conducive to people that are already inside of that culture. What we need to do is rebuild the same thing, but this time adapts to people and individuals.
It's like John there, he talks my ear off when we're not on air, but he doesn't want to say a word now.
Yeah, John's always very quiet when we go public, but when we're on Skype chats, it's like, yeah, ideas and, stuff coming out. So, yeah, that's good insight. Okay, so the next thing was suggestion by Jamie. which is the permissions for Twitter and for the World Crypto Network YouTube. Do you know what? I think even though this is technically this is Tom's channel, like because he created it, I think fuck it. I think since he's away, we you know, sabotage the network, we tyrannize the network, and I'm just going to invite Jamie and everyone so that anyone can create these videos because it doesn't belong to anyone. Everyone owns it. That's what I know. We talked about this in the first one about how we give people, you know, permission to do shows, but I just think no, fuck it. You know, it'll take too long to get votes. I don't like the idea of having like an elitist thing. I think just give people permission, and like I say, I'm just going to invite everyone to be super conscious about how they're coming across. Like a lot of us have a problem because we talk too long, like I probably am right now. You probably know that you're doing it as you're doing it. You probably know that you're doing it. So just be conscious of it and give way to other people that haven't had a chance to say anything yet. And then, you know, that's it. Just get feedback from the audience. The audience will tell you by the fact that 27 people are now watching it. I'll get to know when they're fed up because I'll see a drop-off in numbers.
I just thought about something. You mentioned that people sometimes talk too long and it's interesting, but you just think, oh my god, and I'm going to forget everything I'm saying unless shut up. So I also remember what Dave said about the bot, which sort of bosses people around. What would be interesting as a tool is actually an anonymous kind of a bot-like thing, which is allowed, which doesn't have any social concerns, if you like, to tell people, oh look, would you please shut up?
Mm.
We can't.
I like it. An automated tyrant, an algorithmic tyrant that tells people what to do. You know what? As you've been talking,
like a chess timer.
Yeah, but what I think is good is the person that should get the job is the person that brings the energy to that role. And we just have these kind of 3-month cycles where we reassess the incumbent rulers, or leaders, let's call them leaders. And so we say, okay, who are the leaders? We've got 20 leaders right now on the World Crypto Network. Who hasn't been showing up? Who has been? What's the feedback? And like I said earlier, just say, well, okay, you haven't done anything for 3 months. We're going to make room for someone else. And you know the way they do it with politicians, where they've got those, all the audience members have got those buttons they can click to say whether they're engaged or whether they're not, you know, happy with it. Maybe eventually we'll have these kind of mood or these vibe scanners, so that if you're just talking shit, people can just say, you're talking shit, shut up. Mutes you automatically.
I think it's important too for people that are on air, for viewers that make comments and stuff that aren't necessarily the kindest things they say about you sometimes, and you gotta really take that with a grain of salt. And you know, it's not a personal reflection on your character or anything.
On the contrary, if you're not pissing someone off, you're not doing it right. I encourage you to get some trolls and have people that are pissed off at what you're saying. Like, if someone's like a Nazi sympathizer and they're pissed off at what I'm saying, that's a good thing. Like, I take that as a badge of honor and I want to do it more, you know. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, and little criticisms like, you know, people were saying, oh, you talk too slow and stuff. Well, you know, I was having a
that's a
problem with that.
subjective thing. That's a subjective thing, because that could just as well attract more people that aren't into someone like me who races off at 100 words a minute. So it cuts both ways. It's just a subjective opinion.
And that was something that bothered me a lot. And I kind of, you know, sometimes I talk fast. Sometimes I'm really thinking hard about what I'm talking about, so I pause a lot. And kind of our dialect here, and there's different dialects across the world on how people talk. So
right, I'm not into this whole globalist, let's have everyone look the same, talk the same, like Hollywood, where every actor sounds the same. They've even got Hollywood slang, they've even got Hollywood accents because they need to appeal to a global market. This is all about localism, hyper-localism, and being relevant to your area. And also, John is saying in the chat box that, like, not English isn't everyone's first language, so talking slower could be an advantage for some people. So, no, to be individual, be yourself. Don't change yourself just to make other people happy, but at the same time, just be mindful of how you're mindful of your contribution that you're making. Like, how what is something that I've got that is uniquely mine, that is authentically me, that I can contribute to the bigger project? Yeah, be natural, Ajahn is saying. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a perfect example with this. You know, we got Ksenya and Anna, whose first language isn't English. So, and, you know, you can't help a lot of things, and just the thing is not to be self-conscious or let those things hurt. So, John says his first language isn't English either. I thought it was. Or unless you consider Scottish.
What is your first language, John? Scots.
Yeah,
yes,
but he was born in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Yeah, we're all mongrels, eh? We're all from all over the place. It's kind of cool. Okay, so anything else to add to that?
I will need to get my head around the wallet thing that I missed in the beginning. And
yeah. I can help you out with that. We've got some videos already, but if you want, we can just have like a private session. I can just get you set up. It's not a problem. Same goes for you, Anna, if you want.
Oh, I just look at it first. Is it? Did you put it on Podio?
I'll send you the link right now. It's Bitcoin Armory.
Okay. I'll have a look at it. If I can't figure it out, I'll read the manual. If I can't still figure it out, I'll ping you. And
there are videos online. If you just search for it, there are lots of YouTube and Vimeo instructions on how to do it. So, not a problem.
And it takes a long time if you download the entire blockchain.
Oh yeah, don't bother to download. Don't go for the whole thing. You can just do what's called an offline one. So I've just posted the link in the private chat, bitcoinarmory.com/download. Just download that. Don't download anything else, and you can just run it offline and just play around with it. It's even though it's an advanced application, they've done a really good job of signposting everything. So once you get into a corridor of like, okay, I want to set up my first wallet, it will give you lots and lots of signposts on the way of how to do it. It makes sure that you do security, like it asks you 3 times for your password, and it makes sure in big red letters it says, keep this safe, print this out, back it up to a USB stick. So they're really doing a good job of enforcing best security practice, which I really like. So I want to support them as much as possible because it's an open source project as well.
Also, I just wanted to add before I run away, I'm really sort of interested in this doing podcast thing that maybe not only Chris, you going to be hosting, but that we can just suggest and host, which can be a little bit scary as well. If you're on your own and you're just inviting people, I mean, you probably overcome this thing, and yeah. So should we do it on? Should we suggest it on Podio as well and suggest guests on us?
I'm around this weekend. I'm around next week. Whatever, man. Yeah, just hit me up and we can go through it. Like what camera to get, what kind of microphone to use, just kind of best practices. Yeah, and so actually this would sort of segue into the next suggestion by Anna, where we can have like pre-recorded clips. And James also brought this up in the troll box. Was about we've tended towards live shows, I guess, because we're all kind of like we've got a lot of free time because we're all sort of self-unemployed middle class types that have just got enough money to be able to survive, and so we end up doing these kind of live hangouts and stuff. But yeah, there's of course nothing wrong with doing pre-recorded videos like James and Anna are suggesting. It doesn't always have to be live, and it can be audio only.
Actually, the idea was how to make a live show out of these clips, also to contribute to the plan of having a 24/7 World Crypto Network live stream. And I thought one possibility might be to have a live hangout with, I don't know, 2-3 guests or something like that, and have people send in their pre-recorded clips because they maybe don't want to be in a live hangout or whatever, but they do have their 3 to 4 2-minute message they want to get across, or they want to give a short presentation of their product or project they are working on, and or just want to tell their Bitcoin story, or just want to say what
Yeah,
they want to
nice.
say to the Bitcoin community. And yeah, then during this live hangout, those clips could be shown and discussed or open to the public with Q&A or something like that. But I have no idea how technically it would be the best way to share that in a live hangout. I've tried some stuff out. It does not all work very good. So if anyone's out there having a good idea.
You're right. You can't, at the moment, you can't broadcast a video very well on a live hangout. You do a share screen, and then you have to open up your speaker, and you have to put a microphone in front of the speaker. So it's really, really crude. Tom does it really well. I can't really get it to work. It kind of stresses me out. I've got too much to think about. I don't like dead space when we're on air. I don't like silences because I've noticed before that people drop off and stuff like that. So you're right. But you know what I've noticed? BBC News 24 and CNN have got really good schedules where they have like 20 minutes of headlines, followed by half an hour of pre-recorded content that they cycle throughout the week. So you'll have like BBC Click, which is like a technology show. I've noticed Russia Today now also have an equivalent technology show, which is all about, you know, they're basically just trying to get foreign investment into Russia, I think. But it's basically showcasing innovation within Russia. BBC Click does obviously American and European companies. And then they just have these like human interest stories or reporters. BBC have got a really good one called Reporters, where you get news stories from across the world that perhaps don't make it into the mainstream and don't get mainstream headlines, but someone has gone out to Afghanistan or somewhere, or India, to look at the way a certain minority group are being treated that wouldn't otherwise be getting something like that. So we could create a schedule where on the hour we have somebody comes in and they give like a headline news. Since Bitcoin changes so quickly as well, you probably could do that. And then at 20 minutes past the hour, you then go to like a 30-minute pre-recorded, and you wouldn't even need to put it on air. What you would do is you would just say, right, the news is now finishing, but stay tuned, and then the next video is an upload. So you could just upload it just like that and just make it public after the broadcast. You wouldn't even have to show it in the hangout.
Yeah, like my RSS feed here of,
cool.
I have the Bitcoin news, which is CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, Slashdot, World Crypto Network, and other things, and it just all comes up here, and then after I read them, I can do mark as read, and then refresh, and if anything new has come up, or, you know, I haven't read them in a while, but this one's an hour old, this one's 2 hours old, this one's a day old.
What I think works really well is that not everyone wants discretionary decision power. So sometimes people just want to sit back and be entertained and let someone else give them a timetable of what should happen next. What you're showing me there is like an RSS feed, which is really good, but it looks like people have got some choices. Is that right on that page? That's a Feedly page.
That's a Feedly page, and what it does is, I was just thinking for like at the top of the hour to read the headlines that are new that hour, and you could comment on them or whatever, you know, and then I got down for world news underneath the Bitcoin news or the technology news. You know, scientists discover why mozzarella is the ideal pizza cheese. It's like, oh really? Pacino does double duty as a Venice Film Festival. Dell says its curve monitor will help make you a better gamer. So, you know, a guy could just read through the headlines and give people the current news.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Russia Today does, where they've got 3 channels. You've got RT News, RT USA, and then Prime Time. So you can come on to any of these feeds, and all they're doing is interspersing live news with pre-recorded content. So you see now they cut to the news, which is contemporaneous, and then they'll go to like a pre-recorded show. And BBC News also have an equivalent one as well. And the BBC have got like World Service, which is audio only, but that's like global news that isn't British centric. And looks like RT have also got like a USA channel as well. And at the same time, on the RT website, you can of course look at the Kaiser report as well. So if you missed an episode from before, you can still watch an old version of the Kaiser report. So that's probably something that I would say, like, yeah, we should do something like this. And of course we still do them on YouTube, but then it also sounds like what you're saying, Jamie, is that we have like an RSS feed, so that if people want, they can still come in via Feedly or something like that, and then they can kind of have some discretionary power.
Well, that, and plus just if we're live on the air, we, as a broadcaster, we have Feedly, so it gives us the latest updates. So if there's breaking news at the top of the hour, we can say, okay, this is breaking news, you know, this article just came out, you might want to check it out, or, you know, this just happened, and here's the, you know, okay, like this, you know.
All right, let's say goodbye to Ksenia. Ksenia, thanks so much for being on. Thanks for inviting David.
Okay, bye.
That's really cool.
Bye. See you all later. Thanks for today.
Cheers.
Oh, good night. Bye-bye.
I was just thinking, you know, Tom does it, or, you know, the news broadcasters, they sit there and they have their papers and they read through the headlines before, at the top of the hour, just so people know what's going on.
So just quickly then, recapping, because this is our final point for Anna's idea. I think what would be nice, Anna, is if people could, maybe audience members could send in some pre-recorded questions that are like 30 seconds long, and then we just feature them on the show, and then we just answer that question or something.
Yeah, questions. Or I thought, you know, also, or maybe if they have a statement to make or something like that.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. That's a good idea. Okay, well, we can do that on Chris Before Coffee then, and people can just send those in. I'll do a Twitter thing, and then we can just feature you on the show, and I'll just have to get the audio working. I'll have to practice that kind of routine of unplugging the headphones and putting the mic next to it. Sounds good. Well, guys, this has been another productive Eurocentric World Crypto Network Town Hall meeting. So that's been really, really good. I think we're at the end of our agenda. Like I say, let me just quickly do a screen share of it. All we're really waiting for is Chris McCready, who I mentioned, who I'll be meeting next week, and of course Doug we had last time, who very kindly offered to have us be part of Video Guidance, which is this pay-per-view technology for video, where people can scan a QR code and then they pay, and then they can get special sort of time-based access to the videos. Otherwise, maybe you have to wait for a week or something. So whilst we're not really big into paywalls, we do kind of obviously need to survive at the same time. So it's just about getting the right sort of relationship between fan base and the monetization, I would suggest. So that's something to keep thinking about. But if whilst we're away between now and the next town hall, everyone could set up some kind of grounded online presence like Keybase with a Bitcoin thing, and maybe set up one of these Hangout lower thirds with the Bitcoin QR code, that would also go a long way. And it's just a case of, talking about the things that you do as well. Like if you're like Anna and you've been writing up notes and putting timestamps below these videos, be recognized for that, document it somewhere. If you put it in Podio and there's a Bitcoin address associated with your work, it means that you can forever be earning money for all the things that you did. It's just a tagging error. All you've got to do is get into the habit of tagging your work, saying, look, I did this, and then here's something you can donate to if you want to. And then, yeah, so if you want to join Podio, I guess at the moment you just have to kind of reach out to us on the network. Like, follow us on Twitter. Let me just get the Twitter up. You can also talk to us in the comments below. I always read those. But what we need actually is, when Tom gets back, we actually need an email address. He set up an email address for me, but now it doesn't work anymore. And also the other thing is that he's signed up with GoDaddy, which is like the worst company ever. So I might suggest in our next one that we move from GoDaddy to something a bit more. So you can follow us on @worldcrypto.net. People have already started to talk to us in the troll box below the thing, below the videos. Reach out to us. Just send me your email, and then I will add you to the Podio. Jamie. No, you cool?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great. Well, lovely. Thanks for everyone for joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks as well for staying for the whole duration. Thank you to my guests as well for taking part in this. I'm glad that we got Anna and Ksenia on board because you guys have been in the background for so long. And look forward to seeing you all next time. Bye-bye.